He's setting me off now. I know what to do. That's my county portrait. It sure is. Then we asked the tall there to take a picture of all of us precious people from junior college. Yeah. So, no. Our budget next year is to blow up town hall and start over. Oh, really? I'm not lying.
Like on the same property, or?
So we had that conversation with them. They're not interested in relocating to the community. What names do you have, Adrian? Would you message and say, is this Andy from yesterday? Did you say Andy in silver? Or can Andy hear us now? Andy can hear us.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, is that you, Andy Silver?
Yes, sir, this is Andy Silver. I'm having a hard time hearing you guys. I can just barely hear you, but yes, this is Andy.
Well, we have nobody here in the room.
Okay.
And since you've heard the spiel, what do you have additional questions, or were you tuning in? Wait, there's somebody else. Who's this?
Oh, there's Jeff. Hey, Jeff.
So for anyone who's watching, I see there's one participant who was here last night, and then one of our presenters, one of the engineers is on the call. And then there's another caller also participating. We can go through our discussion if that will be helpful for that person. We're more than happy to. And Adrian is sending you.
Yeah. Hi, this is Christina Solberg. I actually I have a house in the area. I was just trying to catch up on what's going on, so I called in.
What do you want to know?
Oh, I don't know, the highlights. I mean, the water, just the schedule, what's going on with the water park, the Greenway connection. I have a house in Riverwalk, so I'm real interested in that connection.
Very good. The intent of today was to do a brief overview of where the whole Greenway-Blueway is now as a starting point and an entry point, but really spend time on Greenway, which is kind of but if you have questions on Silver Line Park or Riverside Park, we can answer those quickly. Silver Line Park under construction, you've probably seen that. Moving along, hope to open that up by this fall, at least a portion of that park by fall. And then Riverside Park is now under design, as is wet waterway adjacent to it. And so we're moving forward on that. And challenges so we can overcome that. But we have preliminary cost estimates too, so we'll see how things shake out on Riverside Park. Silverline Park funded to go as planned. Who we have in the room who's on the call that we probably should defer to, or we'll talk to more, is Fulton County Recreation Services, is the project manager for Greenways. They have contracted with HATB, the prime contractor for the design of the Greenway, and specifically starting with the Highway 251 Greenway. They'll talk more about that. And David Tuck from Equinox Environmental is also working with HATB as a contractor on the design side. And then we have a couple of elected officials in the town who are listening in and ready to answer your questions. Maybe anything that you thought of, anything you want to chime in. This is informal and intended to be informal. And so Jeff will talk briefly about the Greenway and how that's going, timeline, and then open it up for any questions that you have. So we're here for y'all to just voice your questions. Yep.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, it's still a little hard to hear you, but I think I got most of that. I don't know if Christina, if you got, and Andy, if you got it all, but yeah, I'll give you an overview of where we are with the Greenway. So I think, Christina, as you know, I think you know, we did a preliminary planning study and a schematic design report. We completed that about 3 years ago. And there was a lot of public involvement as well that we did at that time. And then for various reasons, funding being the primary one, there hasn't been a lot of movement in the past 3 years or so. But we are, like Eric said, we're under contract with Buncombe County to move forward with preliminary design. We're really just taking it to a more or less a 25% design level. So we're not doing hydraulics design yet, or we're not scoped to do that yet. But we have started with the surveys and utility coordination. So the functional design or schematic design was really just based on LiDAR. So we're going out and getting detailed surveys, and that has started. And once we get those done, we're gonna, refine that alignment to a more or less the 25% design level. So surveys and utility coordination are ongoing. We've also started the environmental studies. We're doing it in our natural resources technical report. So Equinox is out there already doing some of the studies for that, and they're going to be delineating wetlands and looking for various species, doing all the natural resource studies that we need to do for the environmental document. And so we are under contract to do the environmental document, which is planned to be a categorical exclusion because there are federal funds that are being used for this project that are coming through NCDOT, as you probably know. So yeah, this first, and then we're also going to be doing a public meeting. We have that planned for tentatively for March of next year in 2022. So that's what we're under contract for right now. And as we're moving forward with this preliminary design, we're going to be scoping the later phases, including hydraulic design, which that's going to be a huge component, obviously. With this going right along the French Broad River, we're going to have to be doing some, I believe, pretty extensive hydraulic modeling. That will be part of the next task order. The geotechnical investigations will also be part of the next one. And the reason we're kind of breaking it up this way is just so that we can refine the scope of services a little bit more with this 25% design and then move forward into these other areas. Yeah, we're going to be moving forward with all of that work, and we're thinking right now spring 2023 is when we would start right-of-way acquisition or easement acquisition. The Greenway will really just be an easement, so we'll have temporary easements, permanent easements. There'll be a maintenance easement for the town to access the Greenway. And yeah, we plan on starting that in spring 2023. And then about a year later, go to construction in spring, summer 2024. So we'd be working on final design for that while right away is being acquired. And that'll include structures, any geotechnical design. We think we will have some retaining walls. For structures, we will have at least one bridge over Back Creek up at the northern end of the project. And there isn't going to be a lot of work zone traffic control, but we'll need to do some traffic control, finalize the Greenway design, erosion control design, all of that good stuff. So that's kind of an overview of the schedule right now. I know we're looking for ways to accelerate that. And we talked about that last night, and I think there are some areas where we can hopefully accelerate the schedule, but I think right now that's kind of a realistic schedule, a little over, well, less than 3 years from now, be in construction. But again, hopefully we can find some ways to accelerate that and get it done sooner. I guess I kind of skipped over, and I think we could go through if you want to see the alignment. We did that last night, and I think we could do that again. David did that last night, or we could just look at some specific areas. But I kind of skipped over the limits. It is a 3.3 mile greenway from basically down at exit 25 up to Elk Mountain Road. Another piece of this is that we are currently scoping the Beaver Dam Creek Greenway design. The plan is to, and that's a greenway that another segment that runs from the end of the Highway 251 Greenway at Elk Mountain Road and Riverside Drive roughly over to US 25. Still need to do some work on figuring out exactly where it ends, but roughly it's going to run along the north side of Beaver Dam Creek over towards US 25. And that section, I was a little bit off. I think in our last public meeting, I was saying it's a little over 2 miles. I think it's closer to about 1.3 miles. But when you combine these two segments, we're still getting close to about 5 miles of greenway. So the plan is to get Beaver Dam Creek scoped, get working on that, and get the two projects aligned, definitely by the final design stage, hopefully before that, and let the two segments as one construction contract, and then they would be built at the same time. For the Greenway portion, I think that pretty much, if you want to go through and look at the alignment real quick.
That I'd appreciate that if we could do that, that'd be great. And thanks for the explanation about the easements for the right of way, because I recalled, I don't know if it was a policy or that the county passed where you could not condemn right of way for greenways. So I don't know if that's still in place, but anyway, I was going to ask if there were any issues with acquiring the right of way, but it might be too early to say.
Yeah, so we back in when we did the 2018 feasibility study, can you hear me first of all?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Great. So Yeah, so we met with all the landowners along the corridor, and we got letters of support for all the willing landowners that we could. And now we're starting the process up. And so this meeting's about, and what we had a similar meeting yesterday, was specifically to invite the landowners in because we want to work with the landowners. And so there's no intent to do any takings. It's to work with the landowners if we can. So can you see your screen? Are we sharing the screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Great. So I am going to kind of walk you through the corridor. This, where the yellow line is the proposed alignment for the trail, and it starts at the intersection of Riverside Drive and Broadway. And so that first building you're seeing is actually a UNCA building that's right there. Yep. And then so the Greenway will kind of pass through there. We're gonna have to work with Norfolk Southern to get an at-grade railroad crossing, but there's other projects going on in the city, so we're gonna try to negotiate that while we reduce some other ones in other locations. The Greenway will then continue. It's not continuing along the river in this section because Zillicoa Brewery really didn't want us to go in front of their brewery, and so, but they did talk to us 2 years ago about coming on the backside. So that's why we're kind of following the railroad track. And then right before we get to Silverline Plastics, which is the big facility that you're seeing in the upper part of the image right now, we will turn towards the river, and then we will get on top of a berm, and we will just continue all the way up with the Greenway. And so there's a high transmission line and a MSD sewer line. This is their main line. And so we're working with both of those entities, and in the past have had great communications, and just had a follow-up meeting with Duke Energy just the other day, and they're still supportive of the project, which is great. So from Silverline Plastics, we keep going. They own a lot of property, so this is still Silverline Plastics. And then where you see the green roof in your image, that's Silverline Park. And so you probably are familiar with that. So that's the project that's under construction right now. We plan to, from there, go around Republic Services along the river. We had two options. One went up in front of their facility and one went behind. And they were asking us to really look at the option that went behind their facility. So there would have to be some sort of elevated boardwalk system to make that work. But we will begin conversations with them again. They actually did sign a letter of support back in 2018. So we're fairly optimistic that we'll be talking with them again soon, and we'll still be on the same path. So from here, we just follow the Craggy Mountain line. It's no longer Norfolk Southern. So once we get down the line of ways, there's DOT property is what you're seeing. And then from there, we continue, we get into UNCA Asheville owned property again, and then the girls campus for the French Broad River Academy, staying along the river, going through Craggy Motors. And then when it turns, we're then at what's going to be the new part of the Riverside Park and Wave project. So right before the old Leicester Bridge. And then the alignment kind of varies a little bit right now with the master plan for through this space, but we'll refine that because that project is in process and design. And then from there, we just continue to the existing Riverside Park and all the way up, keep going to the boys campus at French Broad River Academy. And then from there, we're in the mills at Riverside, and had some really good conversations with the Brown family. And from there to MSD and crossing Beaver Dam Creek and getting up to the road so we can cross and start heading up with the segment along Beaver Dam Creek. So in a nutshell, that's the alignment that we have right now. That's the alignment that we're evaluating. And if it still works based on this first phase of the design, the hydraulic modeling will be based on that alignment. But this is the time where we're making adjustments and talking with landowners again. So that's my presentation for the alignment. So if there's any further questions.
It's not, can you hear me? This is Christine again. It's not a question so much as a comment, and you all are probably well aware, I would think, but I just wanted to mention it And the bridge that goes over the French Broad, just trying to get my directions. The one where the Whitewater Park
Yep, yep.
is, are you aware there's a DOT project, or there was, the bridge would be relocated because they can't replace it in the same place?
Yes, yes. Thank you for.
Okay.
We met with Division 13, McCray Coates and Brandon and a few other folks to talk about that. And their project is a lot further out than we had thought. And so, but we did have a meeting with them, and we're going to follow up and have followed up with them again as we start this new phase of the Greenway project.
Okay, cool.
Mentioning that, though.
Okay. Now, this is exciting. It's a great project.
We agree, and we're glad you're excited.
Yeah. Yeah, I live in Raleigh now, but I lived in Woodfin at the time and voted for the bond, and I still have my place there. But I missed, or well, I don't want to interrupt the flow of the Greenway part of it, but I missed what was said about the Whitewater Park. Whenever, if we could go over that, the highlights of that at some point before we leave.
You're looking right at the space where it's going. So do you remember the old Waste Pro facility? You remember where that?
Not particular. I mean, I know the area, but I don't remember Waste Pro per se. Was it like there were a lot of? Yeah, I do. Yeah, there were a lot of things there, like a lot of receptacles or something.
Exactly. It starts underneath the bridge on the downstream side and goes all the way, or upstream side, and then goes all the way to the downstream side of the bridge, and then it connects to the existing Riverside Park. So it's all that section, and maybe move the cursor, you can kind of, yeah, so you can kind of, if you can see the cursor on the map, it's this whole section right here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there's a whole a master plan that was developed last year, and now it's in design. So it's going to construction documents and permitting, and it includes a wave feature in the river, so a park and a wave, and yeah, it's moving forward.
So yeah, that's cool. I was curious, and you might not have all the details, but just is it an issue with, say, the Army Corps, or are there roadblocks with that, or is it looking pretty good?
So we've talked to them previously, and we've had initial conversations and plan to talk with them at every design phase. So we have like a 25% design or 30% design phase, 65%, 90%. We've already been talking with them. We plan to talk with them at each stage of the design to make sure that we're kind of hitting all their points.
Mhm.
You know,
Good.
to have to address the concerns and issues that they have, and that permitting is not going to be easy. We recognize that the hardest part of the project is to get it permitted. But
Yeah.
we feel confident. We have not heard anything yet to make us feel anything but confident at this point that we're gonna be able to make it work.
Well, that's good. I think it would be a great amenity for the area. I think it'd be really great. So
Yeah.
well, that's good to hear. There's a little bit of static. I'm not sure. Hopefully it's not me causing it.
I won't move. I'll just stand still.
Yeah, this technology is great, but it's also a little tedious. So,
Any
oh.
questions that you might have or comments?
No, I'm just excited to see it moving forward. And I guess funding, I know funding was mentioned. So the bond that I voted for, I can't remember how much that was, but does it look like the funding is secure for the right of way, the easements, or however that's working, and the construction? Is that fairly solid, do you think? Or
So it's a multifaceted answer to the question. I think the overall project from the town's point of view, which includes Greenways, the 2 parks, and the Whitewater Way, right now, based on the more recent estimates, is just shy of $19 million. And then of that $19 million, we have surety of all but about 3.5 million. But we also have a couple of open doors that we haven't yet walked through that will help us close that gap. We're pretty confident that that's going to happen. And
That's
we've not begun serious community fundraising just yet, but we know there are some donors who've been contacting us about that with some naming rights opportunities, and we have some other opportunity. We actually have an invitation to go back to the Tourism Development Authority at the appropriate time. So we're going to explore that.
okay.
Yeah, we just secured a water resources development grant for Riverside Park that was awarded in May, $200,000. We have an application in for a park grant, $400,000, and looking at Clean Water Trust Fund grant also. So we'll chase those also.
That's great. Yeah, I would think there's a lot of funding opportunities for this, but what was, and I know schedules aren't set in stone, but what's the completion date for like all of this? Do you think, I mean, if right of ways for at least the Greenways 2023, and you're working on with the Corps on the permitting for the Whitewater Park and all that, what do you think? When do you think this will all be complete?
So I think that's a loaded question.
I know, I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Tough one. We're hoping that 2023 will be finished with Riverside Park and the way. That's best case scenario. There's a lot of, as you alluded to, a lot of permitting is going to be the biggest challenge. But then the design itself of the wave is tricky. So that's going to be very, that's going to draw it out a little bit longer to get that right. And so that's on the parks, but the Greenway, I think, is the bit of a wild card. And that's the one that's going to extend it out a few more years beyond that, as it looks right now. We've worked with Carla before, so she and Peyton are working with HMTV. We're looking to squeeze out any type of efficiencies that we can, but we want a good design, and we want one that anticipates the problem we may encounter by putting in our time early on that. So that's how it looks.
Yeah, I get it. There's definitely a lot of moving parts, but anyway, it's just promising. It's nice to see it moving forward and coming together. And I'm sure there'll be stops and there's often stops and starts with these things, but I really appreciate the chance to call in and learn more about it.
Well, thank you for joining us. I think we are, as a town, speaking on behalf of the town, I'm the administrator. I took Jason Young's place, if you ever knew Jason.
Yeah, I did. I know, that's sad.
Yes, from the town's point of view, I think we're really excited about the potential for this. So we went with Equinox and some of the designers for the Wave recently to knock in Bryson City, just to understand from their point of view any lessons learned and what should we anticipate based on what they learned over the 20 years or so that they've been in operation. So we're trying to look at all angles and anticipate what may happen and what the demand on these parks will be in future. Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to be really popular. I mean, I think it was I was so happy to see Woodfin move forward with the whole bond and just the proposal. And I'm glad the citizens supported it. And I would like to end up back in that area for retirement. So, because that's why I'm asking about timelines. I've got about 9 years. So anyway, well, I think that's all I have. I appreciate you taking my questions and
what helps us understand from others' points of view. Andy, anything on your mind this evening? Jeff, anything to add?
I guess just a little bit more with schedule. I mean, I think we probably are looking at maybe a 2-year construction for the Greenway, just because we do have at least one bridge on the Highway 251 section, and we'll see about Beaver Dam Creek. There may be one on the Beaver Dam Creek segment as well. But yeah, probably about 2 years. And like we've been saying, we'll see if we can't accelerate the design and right-of-way acquisition a bit and pull that up. But yeah, I think so. Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, or if you look at all three of these projects, or maybe call them 4, I mean, Silverline Park, I think you're thinking, hopefully that's done this year, right, Eric? And then the Riverside Park and the Wave would follow, hopefully by the end of 2023, like you said, and then the Greenways would come in after that. So yeah, I think, yeah, you put all those together and it's really going to create a real nice space along the river in the town. So yeah, it is exciting.
Yeah.
Anything else that anyone would like to throw out for the group? Christina, nice to meet you virtually. Appreciate your questions. Andy, you take care. Jeff, good to see you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Bye.